Throughout the ages, people have been trying to secure their valuables by fortifying their locations, hiding information, or building clever ways to keep people out. The same is true for securing business information. In simpler times, you could keep everything safe behind the gated walls of the corporate network. Later, VPNs gave companies the ability to secure access for remote workers. Today, the average professional uses multiple devices to access dozens of applications from any number of locations and networks. And that means more to manage when you're trying to keep valuable business data secure. In this porous environment, attackers are targeting end users directly and gaining access to critical business systems, turning a weak spot into an expensive data breach. That's why Duo Security simplifies information security by defending your data with a single cloud-based solution that provides customized protection at the point of entry. Duo stops unauthorized access, regardless if attackers have your passwords. As part of its new platform edition, Duo analyzes your custom-defined policies for each login attempt, such as the location of the user, the reputation of the IP address, and the security health of the device. With this integrated approach, Duo looks at the entire access scenario and delivers two-factor authentication when necessary. With Platform Edition, you can stop worrying about bad passwords by linking your current identity directory with Duo's Access Gateway, providing secure access to cloud applications. Duo's interactive dashboards let you monitor the security health of end-user devices, helping you find patterns of weakness so you can respond. Duo does this without installing any agents on your users' devices, making it easy to secure access for any user to any application from any device. Regain control and peace of mind with Duo Security.
Hi, my name is Jim Simpson, and I'm on the product team here at Duo Security, coming to you live from Ann Arbor, where sometimes it seems like winter will never end. If you've been with us before, welcome back. If you're just joining us for the first time, thank you for taking the time to join us today while we talk about the latest at Duo Security. A quick housekeeping note, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to jump on the chat channel on YouTube. We have a number of people from the product team and our sales engineering organization standing by to answer any questions that you might have during the presentation about things that we talk about here, or perhaps any other questions that you might have at Duo. You can follow along at home too really easily. So a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today are around our trusted access with our platform edition, and it's pretty easy for you to actually try it out for free for 30 days. And the way that you do that, if you're a Duo customer, is you can go to the billing tab, and when it comes up, you look on the right-hand side here, and you can see that Platform Edition. You can try that for free for up to 30 days. And if you click on that button, it'll bring up a Start Free Platform Trial. And once you click on that, it'll enable a lot of the features and functionality that we'll talk about today. And you don't actually have to do anything else to start getting that value, because all of the stuff that we do in Platform Edition is done agentlessly and part of the overall system that we have. So. The other thing that I'd love to point out here too, when you do log into the Duo admin panel, if you look on the right-hand side, we've got this What's New section. Anytime we've got things that are new in the product, we're going to be putting them in there. So if you're ever curious about what's going on, you can check it out there too. I'm going to jump over really quick to talk through the agenda. So we're going to talk about the roadmap, some of the things that we've done over the past couple of quarters, and some of the things that we're going to be doing very soon. We'll talk a little bit more about trusted access. We'll have a demo on self-remediation and access control. We'll take a look at device insight. We'll walk through some of our role-based policies for users, and then we'll wrap up at the end. So, first, our roadmap. There's been a lot of things going on here for the last couple of quarters. On the platform side of things, we've got endpoint analysis and control. This allows you to take a look at all of the endpoints, both managed and unmanaged, coming into your network and create control around them. We've got some more cloud applications we support, like Canvas, DocuSign. For all of our customers, we recently did a revamp of our authentication prompt. Over the last few years, we've gotten a lot of feedback about how it could be better, and part of the thing that we like to do is take our customer feedback and turn it into something that's much better for all of our customers. And so I think almost all of you should have seen the new authentication prompt, and we're continuing to work on it. So if you have any feedback on it, we're all ears. Additionally, we made some policy additions around trusted devices for hours and days. And we also made it a lot easier to deploy RDP if you've got a situation on your network where your RDP servers can't necessarily access the outside world. We've got a new proxy that'll allow them to act, that will act as a way for them to actually contact Duo. And you'll be able to protect more of your RDP servers than you were previously. Just this last quarter, we released a new update to our device insight. We've now got endpoint remediation in place. And endpoint remediation is really cool because this allows your users to actually update their computers without you having to get involved in the process. It allows them to practice really good security hygiene in the event that they might not even know something's going on with their machine. We've got an update to our fingerprint policy. So now, in addition to supporting iOS users, if you have an Android device that supports a biometric fingerprint, we will also support that in our service. We made a series of administrative improvements, and I'm really happy to say that Duo is the most accessible security product on the market now. Just like we think good usability is good security, we also think that good accessibility is good security. Everyone should be able to protect their services regardless of whether or not they need to have an accessible way of doing so. And then we've also added a couple of new integrations like Paradigm for EPCS and Ping Federate for those of you who are using that for single sign-on. This quarter, we've got a couple of exciting things going on the platform side. We're going to be launching access control very soon. And this is a way of making sure that devices that don't necessarily meet the security hygiene you're looking for don't get into your network. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in specifics when we get further into the webinar here. We're also going to be updating our API with a lot of that really cool device insight information. For those of you who've seen device insight, a lot of you look at the dashboard and you say, this is really great. I want to be able to take this information and put it into a SIM that I've got. And so we're going to be updating our APIs to make sure that you can do that. And then we're also going to be launching some really cool enhancements to our Duo Access Gateway, which will make it a lot easier for your users to use it in the way that best benefits them. And then for all of our customers, we're going to be launching French and German support in both our mobile application and in our enrollment and authentication. And if you're running a new version of Duo Mobile, you can actually try it out now if you want to switch it into French or German and see what it's like to authenticate in other languages. We'll also allow you to onboard your users from Azure Active Directory. And we're going to make it a lot easier for you to map the different attributes coming out of Active Directory when you onboard those users. We've got a lot more cool stuff coming on the platform side of things, and then of course for all of our customers, we're going to make the dashboard a lot greater when you come into the product. So we've gotten a lot of feedback about the map and all of the things that are on the dashboard when you initially get into the admin panel. We've been taking all that information and coming up with a great new way of delivering some cool value there when you first log into the system. We're also going to make it a lot easier for users who get new devices to enroll from those mobile devices. So every year our friends at Apple come out with a couple of new devices, and we want to make sure that when your users get those devices that they can upgrade as seamlessly as possible. And then finally, we're going to make it a lot easier for our friends on Windows to log in using their GUI. Right now, if you've got Windows logon protection, you've probably heard from your users that they have to type in push, and it could be a lot easier. And very soon, we're going to have something that looks a lot like our existing authentication prompt for those users as well. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about trusted access. So trusted access is a way where you can have granular access control and visibility for all users on both managed and unmanaged devices with no agents, and for a lot of different applications, both in the cloud and on premises, from one dashboard with little management overhead. And that's a really long way of saying we verify the trust of a user and their devices before granting them access. And we verify who the user is by using strong two-factor authentication, and we verify the device by our Device Insight feature. And we can do this for any user, any device, for any application, whether or not it's in the cloud or on premises. Why is this important? Well, 95% of breach is actually caused by compromised user credentials, and 75% of breach is caused by compromised endpoints. And Duo's Trusted Access makes it a lot easier for you to solve these problems. So with that, how does Trusted Access work? Well, what we've learned in talking to our customers is about 82% of them have no way of understanding what's going on with BYOD on their network. And there's an onslaught of out-of-date devices that are coming onto the network, and our self-remediation feature can help with this. So with that, I'm going to jump into a demonstration of the self-remediation feature. All right, so we're going to go over here to our demo page, and I'm going to log into my Cisco. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to log, I think, into Outlook Web Access first. So, and I'm using an old, out-of-date browser here. So I'm going to go ahead and start this. And so you've got a user who's maybe coming in from their own computer, and they're running an old browser, and they're going to access their email here. So we're going to sign into that. And what's going to happen is when they go to authenticate, it's going to tell them that their computer software is a certain amount of time out of date. So in this case, I'm running something that's 114 days out of date, and I have a choice here. I can choose to continue authenticating, or I can choose to update things. So in this case, I'm actually going to go ahead and just authenticate because I'm busy. I need to get into my email. So it's going to go ahead and push a login request to me, and it's going to come up on my cool Apple Watch here. I'm going to press approve. And boom, I'm in. Now the interesting thing about this is that even though I was able to authenticate, we put a reminder up here to let the user know that they really should consider updating things, and we explain what they need to update. So in this case, on this computer here, Java is out of date and Firefox is out of date. And what we found in talking to end users is that if they know that it's not going to take a whole lot of time to update their device, and it's going to help them keep their information safe from the bad guys, they're a lot more likely to do that. And so we've incorporated that into our authentication prompt right here. And in this case, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and click update Firefox, and it would take me to the right place to update Firefox. But I'm just going to keep moving on. I'm going to say I'll do it later. Now that's a case where self-remediation came into play. What happens if I've got a really important service I want to protect, like my Cisco VPN? So what I'm going to do now is on the same browser, I'm going to go ahead and try and log into the Cisco VPN, and there's going to be a very different interaction here. So let me go ahead and put in my username and password. And in this case, because the Cisco VPN has a much higher level of protection on it, I've actually been blocked from accessing that application because my software is out of date. And again, it explains what's going on and why. And of course, if I have any questions, I can always ask my administrator about that. Now, let's go back here really quick and talk a little bit about other things that we've learned from our customers. So, in this case, like you saw us doing some self-remediation and access control, you're probably wondering, well, how does that all work underneath the hood? And there's a lot of information that we're gathering that allows us to do this. And in talking to our customers, we found that 83% of you are actually looking for trending and analysis. And there's a couple of reasons for that. You want to understand what's going on with the different things on your network. And so maybe you set up a policy, you want to see what's successful. Conversely, you also want to see, well, if you do make a change, you want to explain what happened. And so maybe you can go take a look and see, like, is there a connection between the two? I wish I could do a poll right now, but what's really interesting is yesterday on our blog, we wrote up about a new Flash vulnerability that just came out. And what's interesting is that Adobe just today released, an update to fix that particular vulnerability. And looking at the data that we have, I'm curious what you would guess the percentage of Flash plugins that are actually up to date across most of the things that we can see. I was pretty surprised myself because we see that only 16% of people actually are running up-to-date Flash plugins, which means there's a whole lot of people out there who are running vulnerable plugins. And Duo's Trusted Access can actually help you with that. And I'm going to jump into what we call Device Insight, a demo to sort of show you what that looks like, how you can derive value from it, and then how you can take that and turn it into policy to automate a lot of this to take the worry off of your shoulders. So we'll hop back over to my admin panel here. So when we were doing self-remediation and access control, that's more like the end user experience. This is the admin side of things. So I'm going to log into here. go ahead and do a push. All right, approved. And we're in. So when you first log in, this is the dashboard. I'm going to go into what I was talking about earlier, Device Insight. So when you take a look at the Device Insight page here, you can see a lot of different things. So it looks like 328 devices are out of date, and that's over a number of different parameters, and 174 are up to date. What's really cool about this is I have, one-click ways of actually blocking those devices if I wanted to. But before we do anything like that, we're actually going to take a look at some of the data here. And like I was saying before, there was a Flash vulnerability that just came out, so I'm going to take a look at some out-of-date plugins, and I'm going to limit it to Flash, and I'm going to say, well, let's take a look at the last 30 days here. And so what's really cool is that you can see these trending graphs, and what they show you is what the number of out-of-date plugins are on the network. And you can see that there's a couple of spikes here, and it goes from like having 17 devices that are out of date to 346 devices out of date. Well, what happened? If I click on March 10th, I can see that a new version of Flash, a couple of new versions of Flash were released on that date. And so as a result of that, a number of the devices on the network are now out of date. Because of self-remediation, the end users begin to see messages about that, and you'll notice that the graph trends down over time, meaning that they're actually updating their devices and decreasing the chance of breach. Now again, unfortunately, these plugins have a lot of vulnerabilities, and if you take a look on the 24th, again, a new version of Flash has been released, and there's another uptick in the number of devices that are out of date, but again, it trends down. And today, Adobe just released a latest update for their most recent vulnerability, and tomorrow when I come back to take a look at this graph, there'll be another spike in out-of-date devices. But it's not just limited to Flash or Java. We also can take a look at out-of-date browsers, out-of-date operating systems, and you can get this kind of information over a series of time, and you can also take a look at it combined, or you can narrow in on specific browsers or operating systems. Now this is the high-level Device Insight page, but we have a couple of subpages which are really cool too, like the Mobile Devices page here. This will break out all of the mobile devices that you've got on your network, and it'll show you the different operating systems. It'll also give you some insight into the security hygiene of those particular devices. And it looks like this network's pretty good because most of the devices aren't jailbroken and rooted. In a lot of cases when we talk to people, we find out that they're actually aware of the jailbroken devices because they've jailbroken themselves. But this is really for end users who aren't aware of it and therefore vulnerable to potential breach. Now what's really cool is you can use this to narrow in on potential issues like stage fright that happened last summer. So if I wanted to go ahead and see which devices were vulnerable to stage fright, I'm going to go ahead and click on the Android devices here, and what I can do is I can load up all of the different versions of Android that stage fright affected, which I think was versions 1.5 through 5.0, and now you've got a list of 164 devices here that might potentially be impacted by stage fright. What's really cool is you can then actually take this and turn it into a report that you can go ahead and do some cleanup on. And on top of that, we'll actually show you all the information that we have about these devices, whether or not the screen is unlocked, the disk is unencrypted, and then if you really want to, you can also continue to sort of slice and dice across a number of different parameters here. If you want to see, well, how many of my users actually have unlocked devices. It's very easy for you to do that. I'm going to go back up to the top of Device Insight and then take a look at laptops and desktops. So previously I'd mentioned that there was this Flash vulnerability that just had an update released for. If I wanted to, I could go down to the bottom here and take a look at the plugins, and I could actually see, well, you know what, who's got out-of-date plugins here? And it'll give me that same exact kind of list that you saw for the mobile devices. And then if I go back, I could actually choose to make some policy around this. And I'll go into that in just a second here. Let's see here. Let's go up here. We switch back over to this. So we've got remediation and access control, and there's the ability to actually see all of this information. Well, how do you connect those two things? And of course, in talking to customers, we find that most of them want to enforce policies on users and devices so they can automate this process without necessarily having to do all of the cleanup themselves. And so the next thing that we're going to do is take a look at some of the role-based policies for users that you can set up inside of Duo. So let's see here. The first thing that we're going to do, if you recall, actually I'm going to go up here to, so there's this block button here at the very top of the Device Insight page. And it says 328 devices are out of date. Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and click on that block button. And what's really cool is it'll actually bring up our policy editor. And it's going to bring up the global policy. And when you initially bring this up, it's going to look something like this. Notify users when they're using out-of-date versions of browsers, Flash, or Java. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, I definitely want to notify all of them. And I'm not going to do anything with this block just yet, but what will happen here is, as a result of this, anytime any of my users authenticate to something using an out-of-date device, whether it's a browser, Flash, or Java, they'll get that self-remediation message in the authentication prompt that'll walk them through updating their device. I'm going to go ahead and save that. But when we logged in using Cisco, you saw that it actually chose to block me. And here's how you can connect those two things. So what I'm going to do is I've updated the global policy, so pretty much everything in my network is going to actually prompt my end users to update when they go and use an out-of-date device. In this case, I'm going to add a new policy by clicking on the New Policy button. And I'm going to call this Privileged Access. If I can type capital P. Privilege is one of my least favorite words because it's hard to spell. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is find my endpoint remediation section here. And we already had, so we definitely want to notify users when they're out of date. I'm going to make this an application-specific policy. I'm going to say I want to block them too. And I'm going to give them 3 months for their browsers, and I'm going to give them 2 weeks for Flash and Java because these things make me very, very nervous. And I'm going to go ahead and say create policy. And so now, at the bottom of this page, you'll see that there is a new privileged access policy, and it's currently not in use yet. I have to apply it to an application from the application page. So I'm going to go ahead and go up to my applications. And I'm going to choose to go ahead and associate it with this Corp Cisco VPN application here. So if I scroll down here, you can see there's this policy section, and it's already got a couple of policies associated with it. This one in particular is associated with the group, but I want to make this application for all users I want to make this policy for all users who are logging in. So I'm going to click on Apply a Policy for All Users. And in this case, I would scroll down here and I would find, actually I'm going to just type it in, Privileged Access, and I click Apply Policy. Now, you do have an option if you just want to limit that thing to a particular group of users. Like if I just wanted to make sure that my admins were making sure everything was up to date, I could actually just say, hey, you know what, I've got a group called admin, and so I'm going to say this privileged access policy has to apply to all of my admins who are logging in. And I click Apply Policy, and that's it. It's going to be active immediately. I think the other thing I wanted to mention is there are a number of different things that you can do with policy. I encourage you to explore this, but there are a number of different ways that you can protect your end users. Everything from geolocation to the types of devices that they're using, to whether or not those devices even have a screen lock or screen lock set. And then, on top of that, you can have them use biometrics to authenticate if that's something that you want to associate with high privilege services, much like we do inside our company. Last but not least, I just want to say, make sure you try out Platform Edition. If you have any questions before trying it out, you're more than welcome to ask us about them. We have a number of different ways. You can talk to our support team, our customer success team, our account executives. We're all standing by to answer questions about Platform. There is no charge when you go ahead and sign up for it. So, if you're using it during the trial edition. It won't charge you any extra for it. You can try it out. If you decide you don't like it, it'll just revert itself, but we encourage you to try it out. There's a lot of really cool functionality there. And then finally, normally we do a lot of question and answers live on this, but this time we're not going to be able to do that. And so we have one ask for you, and that is if you could answer this question for us. We're curious to know what types of devices are allowed on your network to access the work applications there. And you can go to duo.sc/April 2016. Now we're not going to answer that live today, but what we will do is we'll probably write up a blog about it. And I would highly encourage you to stay in touch with us through our blog. We have good articles around industry news there. We do product updates there. We talk about the engineering that goes into some of the things we do. And of course, all of our press and events are going to be there. And you can follow us at duo.com/blog. It's a great place to get information and updates on our products. And then the other thing, I suspect that there's probably a couple product managers watching this, and so we're hiring, and I am definitely hiring. And so we're looking for people in engineering, product, R&D, sales, our ISS team, and our finance and admin team. And you can go ahead and look at duo.com/jobs. We have offices in Ann Arbor, San Mateo, London, and very soon Austin. That's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for using Duo.